So, Lisa Frankenstein. So there's this girl named Lisa who was forced to move to small-town US 80s when her dad remarried thanks to an ex-murderer killing her mom. Cunty, I know. She's not like other girls. Not in like the porn trope way, but in the Beetlejuice's Lydia Deetz meets Scott Pilgrim's Kim Pine kind of way. Her stepsister Taffy is a slave to 80s societal girly girl stuff and has a hard time relating to why she'd rather be a mathlete like Katie Heron in Mean Girls over a cheerleader like Brittany Allen in Bring It On All or Nothing. Also, let me know if you want to see a video of me reading too hard into the Bring It On movies. I'm always looking for an excuse to talk about racism, redlining, and modern day segregation. Anyway, the dead guy she picnics at the grave of because nobody alive understands her comes to life in a freak plot device, played by one of the Big Daddy and Sweet Life twins, I don't know which one, and their connection causes her to start living life the way it's intended, like nobody gives a fuck. Once again, very cunty. But what happens when she gets in over her head? What happens when the confidence of the dead starts making her a menace for the living? And most importantly, what happened to all of her chic glam goth outfits now that the movie is done? Like, are they just in a bougie-ass thrift shop in Los Angeles somewhere? They should be on display somewhere, not in Kaylee McHarness's suburbia-ass walk-in closet belonging to the house her privileged-ass parents laid a six-figure number for. And before you ask, yes, they are, because Kaylee is spelled exactly how you think it's spelled. Now, I'm not gonna lie, while that was definitely intended and written as a joke, the costume design was initially what attracted me to this movie. I'm a sucker for stereotypical bright neon pastel colors everywhere 80s aesthetic, and I love the way Lisa's character progression wardrobe was used as a highlighted complement to it. It represents that I'm tortured, so I'm experimenting with goth act in a way that Knives Chow's highlights tastefully reflect in both the movie and the graphic novel series. Not like the ones that want to shove their otherness down your throat because they're addicted to attention, like the Wonder Bread wannabe Light and Mia from the American Death Note movie. Because of this, seeing this combo play out was basically enough for me to keep the trailer rolling after the 5-second skip ad button. What made watching this a high priority, however, was the 1-2 combination of this being written by Diablo Cody, the same gal who wrote Jennifer's Body, and being the directorial debut of Zelda Williams, the voice of Kuvira in Legend of Korra and also Robin Williams' daughter. Not only was I fond of how she worked in social issues that femme-presenting people regularly deal with into a story about a succubus and wanting to see what she could do with Mary Shelley's baby, but I wanted to see if Zelda had the chops to own up to her nepotism in order to say that she earned and deserved her place in the realm of film direction. Just like Malia Obama did with screenwriting when she co-wrote the Girl Bye episode of Swarm. And what I got was a great combination of story, direction, and exaggeration that's backed up by good, while predictable performances that play into what makes everything work so well with each other, despite there being something buried inside truly worth digging into. Now, I know that this is the type of movie that's going to have no problem finding its cult following of a fan base, and there's definitely some adjacency to said fan base on my end. Am I here to rip into this movie? No, there's no point. Outside of the victims of this movie, there's no point in killing something over someone having a negative opinion about this. That doesn't mean that some of y'all might find what I have to say a critique or a backhanded comment when I'm actually just trying to make a joke, in which case, first of all, please refer to the part of the video where I said, don't nobody gotta bleed over Lisa Frankenstein, mama, it's not that deep. These are my opinions, my points, and you are welcome to agree or disagree with them as you see fit. But if you end up liking what I'm putting down, my name is Readus, offering you critique and immersion of your favorite bits of geek and pop culture media. And if you like what I do here or on my main channel, feel free to join my Patreon, where you'll get early access to all of my written articles and videos across every channel, copies of my video scripts, discount codes to my merchandise store, and a whole lot more. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and subscribe to my Substack newsletter. Not only is it the home for all of my written editorials, opinion pieces, and reviews for film and television after they debut on Patreon, But you'll also get an actual heads up whenever I post a new video on both Readus 101 and Readus 201, 5 minutes after their release. So, with that being said, I hope you'll forgive me that out of all the things that I've noticed and stuck with me about this movie, not a single one of them involved monster fucking. And for that, I'm sorry.
That's really weird, Lisa.
One of the things I really like is how this movie handled camp. Thanks to movies like Bottoms basically channeling their inner Seth MacFarlane, one of the things that's been popular has been boosting up the aspects about tropes that are normally only supposed to be inconspicuous. Yes, you know that this is the stepmom that hates the main character's stepdaughter and constantly lies to herself in order to convince herself that she's a good person that does everything for the right reasons, even though she's not and doesn't. But we're not supposed to see that blatantly play out as if the trope is the character. Because the trope isn't the character. The character is the character. And it's in how natural that character plays out aspects of that specific trope that make it both more believable and more relatable. But that's not what happens in over-exaggerated comedy movies that are basically live-action versions of Sunday night adult animation shows. What happens instead is that the trope balloon is blown up to the same size as the character balloon, allowing them to intermingle instead of the small trope balloon being placed inside the big character balloon. They're still their own characters, but the tropes and stereotypes that define the types of character that they are is allowed to be perceptible. Because of this, everyone is a cartoon character. They represent tropes you'd expect from an 80s teen horror or romance and are applied to the personalities of these characters so hard that it's practically blindsiding you with a sign that says, "This is an extreme exaggeration!" And that's the thing about camp. It can easily have a home in comedies like this and be completely recognizable, and you can definitely tell it found a home in Lisa Frankenstein. Since the type of comedy in Lisa Frankenstein already caters to over-exaggeration with it being a parody of John Hughes-style teen movies from the 80s, camp, naturally aligned with over-exaggeration in the categories and genres that allow it, already fits in this mold. Matter of fact, it's the exact same mold, and they can interchangeably fit into each other. Even more so, there are parts of the movie that I found a lot more funny and entertaining the moment I was able to spot the camp in the first place, because it put me in a place of preparing for what type of comedy, and even storytelling, is about to come my way. Yes, the pink house was what gave it away, thank you for asking. I would have to say that my favorite use of it was in the characterization of the beautiful all along trope badly hiding inside Lisa Swallows. Yes, that's her actual last name. You're starting to put it together? Yeah, you're starting to put it together? Good. It's going to be like this for the entire movie. She was already 80s awkward new kid pretty, but her transition to 80s colorful goth chic pretty that turned the right heads was just as bombastic the more confident she became.
No, I can't. I can't do that. Not until we bury the body.
Work. What I like about how the comedy and camp intertwine and how Lisa Frankenstein displays Lisa's arc is that now that you see how the comedy and camp are directing it, you start to live for her a bit more than when you did on her introduction. You don't dread the makeover montage that likes to pretend it's the first one you've ever seen, first of all, because it's not a montage. The fashion, attitude, and personality shifts over the course of the film because seeing her change is what we're initially watching this movie for. And because it's amplified by the 1-2 combination of over-exaggerated comedy and camp, you're invested enough in her character and development to both laugh and scream, "Yes, bitch!" at the same time by the time a scene like this plays.
Is that Sherry?
No. It's Lisa.
Honestly. Work.
Lisa looks
good.
Now, with that being said, am I going to use this portion to talk about Lisa Swallows' character? Yes. Am I going to use this portion to talk about how Kathryn Newton gets us to care about Lisa Swallows' character? Also yes. Because out of all the actors and actresses that can get away with playing a high school senior despite them being in their late 20s and early 30s, Kathryn Newton does it in a way that allows the teenage girl character she plays to channel her real-life maturity so that they can realistically go from self-conscious to self-confident.
I am a fucking piece.
It also doesn't help that her face has that I can be sexy, pretty, unbothered, over it, and maniacally obsessed and look ridiculously attractive every time thing going on too. With the exception of Ant-Man 3 and like Abigail, Kathryn's ability to showcase either a shy, introverted, or weirdo kid turning into someone we're going to be rooting for once she learns that she's Kenough puts her casting in roles like this right between Winona Ryder during the entire 90s and 1999 Natasha Lyonne when she was in But I'm a Cheerleader, and Lisa Swallows is no exception. Yes, her performance is given an unfair evaluation because it already fits in the theme of the movie's use of both comedy and camp. But genuine performances and the characters that they represent can come out of the ones in a scenario you can't take seriously for the life of you, even if you tried. Bottoms, this movie's big sister, is a perfect example of genuine heartfelt characters that are really touched by the flamboyance brought by the parody, yet feel right at home with the events happening on screen. Ayo Edebiri's Josie does this in spades. Yet her belonging in this universe where high school's football players go to their classes in steel cages makes sense. Kathryn's performance as Lisa Swallows brings that same energy. She convinced me that she wasn't kissing the same guy that everyone in conventionally stereotypical 80s tropes were stuck in got cooties from, despite also displaying the same hickey. There were signs of depression, signs of uniqueness. She basically was that quote-unquote weird kid that preferred the company of either themselves or their English teacher. Yes, I'm calling out myself, it's fine. All while doing everything to tell me that this was where she belonged, regardless if her Act 1 hurdles were gonna be real enough for the viewer to jump over. Now, does her performance end up becoming exaggerated thanks to the camp? Yes. Lisa Swallows is the perfect kind of character to start steadily becoming consumed by camp. The thing about it, though, is that the prominent elements of self-discovery that's common with the tropes Lisa represents still genuinely come through even when the events can only be made sense of because you know it's focused on comedy. Not to mention it's camp. That's why it feels good the moment that she starts giving into it, because by the time that she does, we've been on just a wavy ride with Lisa at this point where we think she deserves it. Giving into the camp as a character like this can be a way of visibly showing the audience that she's treating herself, that she's made enough progress in her character arc that she can start fully dressing like the clever combination of Lisa Frank and Frankenstein she was made to be. It's even used as its own antagonist to her progression as a character when you think about it. Because once she started gaining the confidence to make her punk goth aesthetic work with her bone structure, the more she got lost in the Mean Girls script, reflecting how much her character was affected by the film's natural camp. It's a visual representation that just so happens to be a great representative of the film's actual representation. Changing for the worse, which includes becoming selfish, blindsided, and uncaring, when it's steadily visualized by Lisa's steady deterioration into camp, is such a solid metaphor. And it even hits harder whenever the character breaks out of the shell and sees what a mess the actions of that character resulted in, because now she has to address it, she has to acknowledge it, she has to admit she went too far and that she wants to make things right. The camp represents the actions that Spider-Man made while wearing the symbiote, and breaking the camp to acknowledge what was done under its influence is Peter stripping Venom off of his ball sack in a church tower and trying to apologize to Harry Osborn for turning him into a way more handsome Darkman. Do I hate that this is the only way I can get my point across? Yes, because I hate Venom. But me hating Venom doesn't stop this statement from being true. All that to say that everything Kathryn did as Lisa under the influence of camp made absolute sense. From the ability to match Taffy's freak to cutting off the hand that forced her to touch her lab partner's bulge. And watching her get retribution for these injustices made against her was incredibly fun and satisfying to watch. Especially thanks to the camp. Lisa's steady increase on the graph that is Lisa Frankenstein helped make the movie, especially in regards to the overall message you can claim from it once you get through to the very core.
I'm not afraid of death anymore.
Was the Lydia Dietz of it all noticeable the moment we got a sense of Lisa's character? Of course. But seeing another way in how chic goth can be pleasantly applied to the weird girl only complements her actual struggle that's played throughout the movie and that people relate to. As per my last email, Lisa, as a character, is a newborn baby that's currently swaddled in a blanket of relatable situations and is currently breathing in the air filled with pollutants and microplastic known as camp. Because of all this constant breathing, it doesn't take over the ambitions and developments of the character, it enhances them. And in my opinion, Lisa has just the right opinions about life and the lack thereof that both provides a great dissection of her character and a way that amplifies the movie's already strong sense of comedy and camp.
I meant I wished I was in the ground, dead, because life sucks and people are jerk-offs. I didn't mean that I wanted to be with you.
How does this set off the Lydia Dietz comparison in my head? Well...
No, Lydia, we're dead.
I want to be dead too.
No.
Now, I glanced this about her character back when Taffy made an unsuccessful attempt to convince us that she was worthless. The party was the perfect place to give off the vibes that this is a girl that doesn't gravitate toward the same social norms that everyone else, including her alive crush, follows. And the scenarios that properly display them are all things that one can honestly understand why one would gain that train of thought, even without the camp. That's why if I'm going to associate Lisa Frankenstein to any other iteration of Mary Shelley's Womanifesto, my immediate thoughts go to James Whale's Bride of Frankenstein, enveloped in its own sense of camp. This telling of the second half of Shelley's book showed how Frankenstein's monster is a misunderstood grab bag of assembled body parts drifting in a sea of German white folk who fear what they don't understand. Every time he tries to befriend someone that has working eyes, they scream and declare him a monster, and that attracts the mob that's always ready with pitchforks, rope, and a log tall enough to tie him down on. Because of this, he prefers the death he's molded in instead of real-life people, mostly because, as far as he knew at the time, the dead can't hurt him like the living do.
I love dead. Hate living.
Lisa is an interesting reflection of that. She ticks all the boxes in how the weird kid is supposed to act when it comes to it's me against the world situations. It also helps because this is supposed to be part 80s parody. The actions of everyone but Lisa in regards to her are exaggerated to emphasize the point thanks to an inherent camp. But it's in that exaggeration that you understand why Lisa gains the POV of Frankenstein's monster in Bride of Frankenstein. If I lost the parental figure that I felt ever got me, only to constantly be surrounded by individuals that don't care about my existence, despite not knowing me, I'd probably be in the right to think about death just as much as she has as well. It even makes her decision to hang out at the grave of the creature before he was brought back to life, instead of with the actual living people in her life, all more understandable.
I wish I was with you.
But as much as she's part Frankenstein's monster in this regard, she's still part Victor Frankenstein. She may not have directly brought the creature back to life, but she found the vindication in how she came about giving him a new ear, a new right hand, and a new set of male genitalia, including how to get them all properly up and working. And considering every part came from a person that did her wrong, justified or otherwise, those in her corner reveled in how she went about it. But in doing so, we only saw the hubris, the ego, and the sociopathy that overcame Victor's personality during his decision to play God play out in Lisa. She feels herself, yes, and we love that for her, but she gets lost in the sauce in regards to how she personally amplifies her ability to tell herself that she's the shit. Every time you see her learn to appreciate the creature while ignoring his advances in pursuit of her actual real-life crush. Every time you see her become more less and less willing to be consolable to Taffy. Every time you see her care more about the possibility of getting caught rather than the fact that she both killed and participated in killing people. All of that is the Victor of her Frankenstein coming out in response to her natural feelings and responses about people thanks to her inner Frankenstein's monster. Fuck the living. With the exception of my mother, the only thing the living only gave me was grief, and I hate that I had to be among them. Then she finds the creature. And the more he enables her, the more her original feelings about people are amplified and emboldened in ways that make her not see the people who actually tried to show her that life is worth living, that despite their fallibility, finding solidarity among the living is possible.
You're the type of person who usually bullies me or looks right through me. But you didn't.
In a way, this is on par with what I call a mean girl aesthetic. What started as a way to get back at Regina George for taking back her Bobby Drake of a boyfriend, ended with us realizing we're slowly yet surely becoming what we aim to destroy in the first place. And it's through this transition of Lisa's development that started with her being Frankenstein's monster and ended with her realizing that she's turned into Victor Frankenstein that Lisa realizes the limit does not exist. Yes, she still reacts to the creature offing those who threaten their new established happiness like she's been doing since her personality shift. You know, because... But in her realization that both the creature loves her and that she's been growing closer and closer to him over the course of her own revitalization, she also notices that with the revelation she had with Taffy and how she reacted to her real talk, whatever bridges she initially had with the living had been burned by her own hand. So much that the only thing she had left, especially now, was her connection with the creature. Especially now that she knows that one of the possible end results is that, with her death, she can spend an eternity with someone who loves her through both.
We belong dead.
So, Lisa Frankenstein. Yeah. It's not a masterclass in how to incorporate it by a long shot, but thanks to the writing and the relatability that Zelda Williams helped draw out of Kathryn Newton's performance, it's the type of story that can work if the choice to be taken seriously was heavily entertained despite how well it accustoms to the very nature of camp. The question, however, is, do I want to see a non-satirical version of this story that doesn't lean on to camp as much as this one does? Honestly, I don't think so. There's already plenty of stories that take a good yet serious approach of being the odd one out that grows too much confidence to overstuff their hubris. One that's meant to be fun and cheerfully lets his writing soak in the footbath that is camp won't hurt. Especially since you can still understand the struggles and lessons that Lisa learns over her journey despite its presence. Lisa Frankenstein, as is, scratches a series of itches that a lot of people have in common. Especially thanks to the story being written by a woman who relates to this energy considering her body of work, portrayed by a woman who is in her element when she performs this type of work, and directed by a woman who knows from experience the importance of this type of work. If you're looking for a film that provides a good example of what the comedy and tragedy masks mean in theater, you wouldn't regret having Lisa Frankenstein as an example. Not the example, just an example. And out of all the examples present, this movie is one of the better ones. Right, yes, homework. Write in the comment section below what you thought about Lisa Frankenstein if you've seen it. And if there's a movie you want me to talk about in this Readus 201 version of Film Friday, let me know in the comment section below as well. Whew, they should have never told me I can self-medicate my ADHD. I'm about to make it everybody's problem. Thank you to all my patrons, big and small, for your financial support and making this possible. If you want to support the creation of the videos for this and the main channel, make sure you click the card at the end or in the link in the description to join. But until then, this is Readus 201. Class dismissed.